Have you been in a tricky situation lately? The last time you went through that, you probably said something like, "I've tried everything." But have you though? Have you really tried everything? NieR Automata teaches a very valuable lesson early on to embrace the simple solutions to the problems that plague us, and it doesn't waste any time teaching you this. The crazy thing is that this solution will solve 90% of your problems. Right from the start, you're going to learn what it means to feel uncomfortable. You're going to learn what it takes to push past that feeling into uncharted territory. And you're going to learn to do it by any means necessary because you quite literally won't have a choice. If you're willing to grow, you'll gain something valuable from this experience, and you'll develop a few qualities that will improve your life. Let's talk about it.
Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse? Or some kind of punishment? I often think about the God who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
That's how the game starts. You immediately get dropped into an opening mission with no context, no real instructions, and no lore dump. If you didn't look up any details about this game and went in completely blind, you're left with questions like, who is Operator 6-0? Why are people dying left and right? Who am I fighting? What am I doing here? Logically, you'd expect the answers to come pretty close to when you start playing, like many other games tend to do. Nope, not here. You just start playing. Your flight unit is quickly surrounded by enemies, and you only get the briefest of instructions for the gameplay mechanics. There is no hand-holding. You just have to figure it out. You'll notice right away that you're playing a game with a health bar, so obviously death is a possibility. Normally when you die, you restart at the most recent autosave location in most modern games. Again, not here. Death at any point means starting completely over from the title screen. Okay, it's not so bad, but how long does a prologue last until you can get to a save point? Anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour? Just imagine the frustration you could feel going through an opening shoot-'em-up section, into a side-scroller shooting section, into action combat, into some platforming with various shifting perspectives, into a boss fight with several mechanics thrown at you all at once, just for you to die right before the cutscene that concludes the prologue. Does that scare you? Does that put you off from wanting to try this game? If so, you probably need to play it. Now, of course, all of this comes with the caveat that this is just entertainment, right? So you don't necessarily have to push through something that you don't enjoy. But if you are the type of person who would enjoy a multi-layered story with compelling action game combat, deeply written characters, and real themes that have an impact on your life, you won't want to let a pesky little prologue mission with a tricky gimmick hold you back. Before we start playing NieR Automata, you must know that this game has a lot to say. It's not going to just say those things in the script. Every fiber of this packaged piece of software includes some kind of feeling it's meant to convey, and it's clear from the jump that you really need to open your eyes and ears to get the full message. Let's walk through the opening hour of the game. From the title screen when you select New Game, NieR Automata will literally warn you, this game does not support autosave. Play the game to find out how to save. You can't say you weren't told beforehand. Next is selecting the difficulty, which actually has some significance here. We'll circle back to that in a bit, but before you begin the game, you can review the controls in addition to other settings. And this is a good idea because the game will not hold your hand when it comes to navigating the controls early on. The narrator identifies himself as 2B, and as you're getting very brief but also very vague instructions from someone called 6-0, very quickly the rest of the squadron is eliminated by laser attacks. There's no emotion from any of the other members of the squadron. Business continues on as usual. Seamlessly, the game allows you to take control, and the gameplay opens up into a top-down shooter with the controls briefly flashed on screen for you. Left alone as the last surviving member of the squadron, our protagonist 2B hurries off to perform reconnaissance on the local terrain. The mission is still unclear, but at least we're starting to get familiar with what the situation is. We still don't know who we even are, let alone who we're fighting against, but we've already lost our entire team. Eventually, 2B emerges out of her flight unit, clad in black and sporting a comically large blade. The gameplay shifts again into action combat. It's worth noting that, again, controls are just briefly flashed on screen, and often a little later than when you needed to learn them for the first time. You're starting to think, what is the game trying to do to me here? The game progresses into the first mini-boss, which brings a bit more clarity about the Goliath that you're seemingly on a mission to terminate. This section makes full use of all the skills and mechanics you practice on low-level fodder right before, but it's enough of a difficulty hike to where you need to be really good at what you just learned to avoid taking damage. It's at the end of this fight that we're introduced to 9S, a similarly blindfolded companion who's actually quite polite and sounds like he has a personality, unlike the stoic 2B. At this point, the prologue really starts to open up. You get a combination of action combat, platforming, fascinating perspective shifts with the camera. This is the section where you'll really want to take full advantage of the space the game gives you to get comfortable, because things are about to get way more difficult. Congrats! You've made it to the final boss of the prologue without saving. If you can complete this fight, you'll be rewarded with the opportunity to save your progress so far. Unfortunately, this boss will present a challenge for most, especially for those on higher difficulties. You do have 9S helping you, which is a big boost, but you'll still need to make full use of all the mechanics that you've been practicing over the last 30 to 40 minutes to take down the enemy. The boss fight literally walks you through all of the different gameplay styles that you've been working through, and it's a really nice set piece. Once you actually manage to defeat the boss, your reward is the information that there's actually 3 of them, and then our 2 protagonists, 2B and 9S, blow themselves up because of the overwhelming futility of their mission. It's literally impossible to win after just barely scraping by against one Goliath, so they just decide to trigger a massive explosion instead with their black boxes. That's how the game starts. At no point have you gotten any lore or any information that would provide much context to the conflict that you're at the heart of. You start by fighting, and you end with your own defeat in a way. Thankfully, the game does not pretend that you're naive enough to believe that it all ends here. After the big explosion, where our 2 protagonists blow themselves up, you're transported to a space station where you discover that our 2 friends, the androids, 2B and 9S, are perfectly fine, having reloaded their consciousnesses to new bodies aboard their satellite home base. Shortly thereafter, you get a cutscene that finally provides the broad strokes of the overarching plot. Aliens invaded Earth, deploying machines to fight on their behalf, which pushed humanity to take refuge on the moon. Humanity fought back with the armed forces of Yorha, a group of sophisticated androids like 2B and 9S who operate from home base on a satellite removed from humanity on the moon.
Glory to mankind.
Glory to mankind.
Does that sound like a lot? It's a lot. But if you don't let all of this put you off, you'll be rewarded with a nice life lesson in exchange for your troubles. If you want your handheld through life, you're more than likely to be disappointed. If you want your handheld in this opening mission, you'll equally be disappointed, especially if you set your sights too high. You get your option between 4 difficulty levels before starting: easy, normal, hard, and very hard. Your choice here will likely determine a lot about your experience for the next hour. Difficulty aside, in many ways, the game is fair, giving you some free upgrades that you have to buy later on after the prologue, including an auto-healing chip and access to free items. You can also be creative about some of the enemy encounters and whether or not you even choose to engage with all of them. You can illustrate some of these advantages with what we inherit in life. There are some advantages that are perfectly in your control, but there are also a few things that you just can't control. The lack of a save point is one of those things that you just can't change. What can you adjust? For one, there's the difficulty level. If you snoop around on Reddit, you'll see quite a few threads of people complaining that the prologue is too hard and that its setup messes up what's otherwise a masterpiece of a game. Typically, the highest upvoted comments are one of two things: either commiserating from other players about how hard it was, or others mentioning how they got through it after lowering the difficulty. Therein lies one of the major lessons the game instills in you from the first opening minutes. It's okay to go back to the drawing board and remove constraints that make things difficult. Imagine the most stubborn person you know. I don't know, maybe it's you. Wouldn't their life be a lot easier if they didn't try to do things on hard mode? Wouldn't your life be easier if you didn't try to do things on hard mode? Pride often prevents us from taking the easy way out. But you should be applauded for getting through some challenges any way that you can. Ease restraints that come your way when you're able to, and just make it through as you discover other possible solutions to your problems. Brute force isn't always the answer. You don't get a trophy for doing things on hard mode, neither in real life nor in NieR Automata. Right from the start of the game, the warning that says, "Play the game to find out how to save," is a promise that you will eventually reach your goal, furthering your progress. But when? Every time a new cutscene kicks in, you may be wondering, can I save now? Is now the time? Can I do it now? No, not yet. Until you can. You just have to learn to be okay with that. Either you deal with it, or you quit. That mirrors the binary decisions we make in real life as well. Either you somehow solve the problem you're facing, or you give up. Figuring it out can mean lowering the difficulty, practicing, memorizing patterns, trial and error, or some combination of all the above. But the resilience it takes to find a solution is what will open up a whole world of incredible storytelling. At least in this game. In some ways, making it past the prologue is a twofold journey. The reward is in the journey, learning to push past what makes you uncomfortable, doing so in a way that is adapted to your circumstances, and also in the destination, unlocking the rest of one of the deepest stories in modern gaming. If you let this lesson impact your life, you'll gain real value from a silly little video game about robots and androids. So, let me ask you something. What constraints are you adding to your own life? Do they really need to be there? Have you really tried everything? As you make your way through the prologue, it's worth reflecting on those questions. Now, you may be sitting there thinking, it's not that deep. And you may be right. But experiencing storytelling at the highest level is when it's its most rewarding. If you can find anything that makes you feel something, I see that as an absolute win. NieR Automata is a game that's literally designed to make you feel something with every deliberate choice that Yoko Taro and the development team made. I'd argue that they do want to teach you something with every piece of level design, and I'm happy to sit here and read into it that deeply. The master manipulator clearly is someone who values the power of themes, and as someone who views his job as an entertainer, he's found creative ways to convey lessons to those fortunate enough to play his games. NieR Automata is not the perfect game, but it's trying to say something, and it deserves recognition just for that. In an era where some AAA games are made by algorithms to maximize profits, there's something powerful in the fact that one man had a creative vision, and he got to see it through to the end. There's so much more to NieR Automata that's worth discussing. We spent all this time just talking about the opening hour of the game. There's multiple endings, camera techniques, perspective switches for the characters, gradual and layered storytelling, a complex but also refreshingly simple combat system, and themes. Man, the themes in this game. There's so much to unpack here because Yoko Taro really understands the relationship between emotions and media. If you're one of the people who dropped NieR Automata because of the ridiculous premise of the prologue or its difficulty level, I'd encourage you to give it another shot under this lens. If you never even gave NieR Automata a shot in the first place, this is just a glimpse of the purposeful storytelling that's waiting for you after you boot up this journey. The destination is worth it, but so are the lessons you learn along the way. Did you struggle with the opening mission? Let me know in the comments how you overcame that challenge. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. Just like how NieR Automata challenges you to adapt, I want to do the same with my content. Let me know what worked, what didn't, and what you'd love to see next. But also please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That would help a lot. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.